Woohoo, folks! How you going? Look, the hair's not going real well. I've even had a shower since we last spoke, but doesn't seem to have improved. I'm not sure that tonight's connection is going to be terribly flash. Thunderstorm, bloody huge thunderstorm around me at the moment. Just had sort of the brush by of the front edge, and I'm looking out my window here, which I've had to close because it's coming from that way. And yeah. The last thing I need is this sort of rain coming in on the back of the gear. So a little bit hot in here. If I start to sweat, I apologise, and sorry about the hair. There's nothing I can do with it. Yes, I will go and get a haircut very shortly. That is the promise. Hello to Davo, who was first in tonight. Not drinking, guzzling, or sipping. No, just bottling as far as I'm aware, Dave. Is that how it works, mate? Good on you. What the? How are you, mate? And you've been doing a bit of looking in on the X39 compensation plan. Yeah, look, to be honest, I haven't even looked into the compensation plan. I know that you get, you'll get the same commission feed that I would get out of it. So it's very easy to fund your own patches out of putting 2 or 3 people in to the patches. So yes, absolutely, you can fund your own patches for that. Unfortunately, I need a few more people than that to fund a bus or to fund the fuel into the bus and the servicing of the bus. So, but yeah, that's essentially how it works. If you're into that, if you want to run it and get a few bucks for yourself every month, then I have absolutely no problem with that. If that's what you want to do, then please go and do that. If you don't want to do that, I have no problem with that either. I would suggest to you, though, if you are going to buy through the link, it's cheaper to buy a pack than it is to buy the enrollment, the little introductory thing, right? Or to buy them as a retail person. All right. If you buy the patches through the link, which I haven't put up, but I guess I'm gonna have to load up something so I can copy it. If you sorry, can't talk and do things at the same time. So if you want to you try and make a few bucks out of it, and everybody is more than welcome to do it, then by all means, please go and do that. But you do not have to pay retail price. You can buy a bronze members pack and just not bother putting anybody else into it. It's cheaper to buy it that way, or a silver pack if there's 2 of you or whatever. It's cheaper to do it that way. You pay more as a retail customer than you will as somebody who is through a pack. That's just what I've been told today. And if you're going to pay for it, I'd prefer that you paid the least amount possible for it. But once again, that is your decision. It is also absolutely no commitment. I've received a few emails from people who've said, oh, look, it's a subscription model. You've got to subscribe monthly to it. No, you don't. That is the default setting on the page where you're clicking on there. But there is a checkbox or an unchecked box beside that. If you uncheck it, it won't auto-renew. Therefore, at the end of the month or whenever, it won't automatically deduct the money from your account for your order and then send you a new order. That means that you only need to order when you want to. So there is no obligation to be involved in anything ongoing. You can try them. If they don't work for you, then get a hold of me. Don't waste the patches. Get a hold of me. I'll try and figure a way to buy them off you because I will give them to people. But I can't guarantee it's going to work for everybody. I can only tell you my experience, and I can only show you the experience of others who've used it. But beyond that, it's all up to you. And as I say, of all the patches I've handed out, I've had 2 people who have reported no effect. And I believe there are reasons for that. But regardless, it didn't work for them, and that's fine. Sometimes it will work for people, maybe sometimes others won't. I do think, as I said in an earlier thing today, it probably is a bit of open-mindedness that's required, because we notoriously, God, I hate my hair. We notoriously don't like these sorts of things. So I'm very skeptical of the whole thing, and that's why I've spent a part of 3 weeks looking into it before I even talked to you about it. I don't want to tell you what to do. I just want to tell you that it is not necessary for you to sign up to a forever agreement. Please don't think that. Just if you're buying, go through and you get to that point where it says auto renew, look around that point, because there is a place to uncheck that box. That just means it's a one-off order. And anytime you want to order, you just go back through the link and do the same thing again, and your order will turn up. It's that simple. Okay, let's get off that for tonight. Sunflower, thank you, God knows. $30 for fuel. God, I love you. Thank you so much. And Sunflower is a user of the X39. She's been on them for a little while. There was a lady who contacted me today, Hilly. She sent me an email. She's been on the patches for 3 months, and she has some quite severe issues, and she's noticed an amazing change in her life. So in many different facets of her life. Including the ulcers that she has bursting, clearing and cleaning themselves, starting then to heal over. Grey hair, not so much anymore. Wiry hair because she's old, not so much anymore. It's a lot softer, and she has more hair. So, and she's 3 months in. So I think that's pretty spectacular. I want to say just before I leave the patches for tonight, I just want to send my love to Donna. And you've heard me refer to my Mason. Well, Mason and Donna live on the Sunshine Coast, and Donna is definitely a candidate for these patches, and I'll be bringing some to her as soon as I have some. I've posted all mine out today, so I'll have to wait until the new one turns up, which will be sometime next week, the new order. So once that happens, Donna will be getting some. Donna has had back and arm surgeries in the last 12, 18 months, and very severe ones, and I'm really hoping that we can help her with her pain. She is a dear friend, and while she sits in her chair and contemplates her pain, she you come on, storms, slow as buggery. All right, come on, there you go. Oh shit, that was a quick flash, wasn't it? I'll hit the button again and hope and wait for it to come up. There you go. So I have my own minion now. I think that's just wonderful. God love you, Donna. Thank you so much. I think you're fabulous. Just fabulous. And I'll see you and Mason soon. Looking forward to it. All right. From a bit of fun to something not so fun. Don't ever forget this, folks, because the world cannot be allowed to forget this. This happened. There are police officers willing and able to testify. Fortunately, not as many, because a lot of the ones who saw the original Frazzle Drip stuff have shuffled off this mortal coil, so to speak. So be aware, in the next few weeks, you're likely to hear a lot more about Hillary Clinton, and it'll probably have something to do with Joe Biden. And Joe Biden not running for president. Not being removed, just not running. But why? Still remains to be seen. Now, a few days ago, a lot of you will have seen this little thing pop up. Nothing can stop what's coming. 15 hours, 15 days, 54 hours, 17 minutes. Well, we're about 9 days out now from whatever is going to happen in 15 days. What will it be? Who knows? But I've been watching some interesting intel dumps today that indicate tomorrow our time, Friday in the US, there is going to be a lot of information dropped. So that will be sometime in the next probably 12 hours, we would suspect we'll start seeing it. Now, look, I'm not one to go and give you dates, folks, because we all know where they lead. But there does seem to be the tempo of intel is increasing. Can I say that? Can I also tell you that just because the tempo is increasing doesn't mean the quality is. And if you are like me trying to sort your way through the piles of shit that turn up in your inbox and on your Telegram and wherever else, you have to use your discernment, because both sides are using intel and these videos and all that sort of shit to try and sway the population, try and numb us, dumb us, or motivate us. And I think there is a lot of that happening at the moment. There is a lot more coming out. There's a lot of talk today about Stephen Colbert being arrested. Now, I guess they're naming him. He wouldn't be the first. I don't know that he's the first celebrity I've heard named. But they have certainly gone all out in explaining what charges he would be facing, and the fact that he's going to be facing those sometime after January at Camp Blaze, which is the camp we told you about some months ago being put together on Guam. There was a great death yesterday, or maybe the day before, American time, I'm not quite sure, but the world can breathe half a sigh of relief as Henry Kissinger's double, or robot, or whatever the hell it was, died at 100. Now, Henry Kissinger, of course, was a main player in what has happened in our world from, the 60s through, from Nixon time on. And he has been a big player in Australian politics all that time as well, behind the scenes, of course. But interesting to note that just another one shuffling off this mortal coil. Though he is 100 years old, you probably wouldn't have expected too much more from him, would you? I know I probably didn't. Australia is facing... most of them are stemming from decisions made by an incompetent government that I'm not completely sure we elected, and I am damn sure were not elected in a lawful election. So what happens when you get... Well, I can tell you that the real household disposable income per capita in this country is right now at the lowest it has been in the last 85 years or more. The lowest. And what is that smiling buffoon doing? Well, he just can't wait until he can get to the next plane ride. He can't offer anything to the Australian people. The man is completely bereft. Can I offer this up? Maybe as a unifying factor through all the freedom movement. Maybe we need to start looking at the diaries of these politicians, the ones that are in ministerial roles, and maybe we need to start turning up at their events and shaming them. If we can get a few hundred, a few thousand, just a few, standing out the front, shaming them, maybe we can create a movement. Every time one of these bastards turns up to shake your baby, or do not recognize them, spit at their feet. They aren't worth your time. They are criminals, corporate criminals working for a corporate organization based in another country. And they are working for the WHO. Now, Malcolm Roberts, I'm pretty impressed with Malcolm lately. He is best he can. And I'm so pleased to see, I don't know that it had anything to do with his questioning, but I'm so pleased to see that one of those smarmy bastards from the CSIRO that was sitting in estimates the other day telling Malcolm Roberts that he'd already had all the answers in private meetings and I didn't want to discuss them and wasn't going to tell it in public. That bastard on his $900,000 a year job's been sacked. Not, laid off, not, suspended with pay. He has been sacked. Not, I don't think, for anything he said in the estimates committee, more for showing or allowing his personal feelings to bleed into his text messages, and somebody shared those text messages as be shown, shall we say. He had nowhere to go. There wasn't even a question about him resigning. He was sacked. We need to sack all of them. We need to sack that bastard's boss. $1,049,000 a year he is on. Apparently, the Australian median household wage is $49,000. Well, I'm certainly not making $49,000 a year. I don't know if you are. Good luck to you if you are, or more than that. Bloody well done. But $1,049,000 a year to run the CSIRO, who do this to the people and this to the government, and just take the money and do what the hell they like. These places have to be turned inside out. In fact, I got a LNP. In it, they decided that they are going to re-energize the bureaucracy as part of their plan for government. And what they're going to do is institute all these new graduate programs for the bureaucracy, meaning they are going to take these brainwashed, juiced up, bachelored up morons who can't have an independent thought for themselves, but have been brainwashed into the new world order via being extremely good in high school and being extremely good in university. The only thing these very, very smart people haven't figured out yet is that they only get passed for answering the questions correctly on their exams. Therefore, they only get passed on what they are taught. So these people are not independent thinkers, because if they were to question what they were taught, they wouldn't pass. Because clearly the only way to pass is to know verbatim what you've been taught. That's what the induction is at university. The introduction to brainwashing. Well, I beg your pardon, that starts in primary school. By the time you get to university, you are a receiver. You are not a transmitter. You are not a questioner. You are simply a receiver. You take in the information, you remember it, and that is the truth. You do not question it, because if you were to question it, you wouldn't pass your exam. You wouldn't get your bachelor. You wouldn't get your master's. You don't get those for questioning. You get those for knowing the answers to what they've taught you. What they've told you is the truth. So I replied to the LNP letter, pretty much outlining how out of touch they were, how they were no better than the fat pig that's working in the Labor Party at the moment, trying to keep Plucker, Chuck and Co. above water. Yeah, I know who you are, mate. I know who you are. So, yeah, there's a lot to learn about you. A lot. And a lot more. We already know a lot. There's a lot more to learn about you, you faceless, nameless prick hiding behind a woman's dress. So, mind you, is she a woman? I'm not quite sure. Not completely sure at all. Don't really want to find out, if I'm honest. No, I won't go on to there. I'll just get more angry. I want to talk to you about something else. I want to talk to you about flat Earth. Now, I don't know if this video will play. I have no opinion on flat Earth other than I don't give a shit whether it's flat or whether it's round. I really don't care. At this point in time, it matters not to me. The only question I would ask, or the only thing that matters to me, is that if it isn't round, why have they told us that it is? For what reason? I don't care if it's flat. I don't care if there are another 7 realms outside the ice wall. I don't care. It'd be great to go and see them. Love to be a part of it. Don't get me wrong. But I'd be more interested in wanting to know why we've been told something different, and by whom. Who made that decision? Because this is what's changed our lives. This is what's changed our world. So if it is the case that the world is flat, and I'm not saying for a moment that it is, but Just watch.
The Earth might be bigger than we thought. For years, people have debated over the shape of the Earth, if it is round or flat. But what if the Earth had more than just 7 continents, and Antarctica is a giant ice wall that kept us from seeing the rest of the continents? What if, once you made it past the ice wall, you'll find 20 other continents that are hidden from us? And what if there was a map that showed this? There are theories that these continents contain prehistoric animals, aliens, and advanced civilizations, and that the 7 continents that we are living in is actually a giant farm or business owned by a small handful of families that make up the filthy rich past the ice wall. That is why.
Right. So that's the theory. And I play that flat Earth theory for you because part of that theory is that the flat Earth is covered by a firmament, an invisible dome, okay, over the top of us. Now, some people would suggest that the recent SpaceX launch with 33 Falcon X rockets on it, testing their rocket to, I think it's the moon, or actually it's their Mars trip, I think. They had a malfunction. It blew up. It blew up very high in the sky. I have that video. I have been looking at it very closely. I've been slowing it down, all sorts of things. It's an interesting video to watch, but there is by no means any conclusive evidence. I mean, the explosion of the entire unit comes from the nose back until the main fuel cells explode, and then the whole thing goes. But the initial explosion happens in the nose. Is it an explosion or is it an impact? Because there are some very interesting clouds, I don't know, things that appear around that impact point. Could that be a shockwave? Anyway, what do I know about the firmament? Not a great deal, but the Bible does. So from Wikipedia, in biblical cosmology, the firmament is the vast solid dome created by God during the Genesis creation narrative to divide the primal sea into upper and lower portions so that the dry land could appear. So it was in the Bible. And while we are looking at the Bible in, various different ways, many of us in various different ways, I think we can all agree that there are many biblical truths that seem to be appearing. Okay, they're not all appearing at once, and they're not all appearing in line or in order. But there does seem to be a lot of things mentioned in the Bible sort of coming into play. And I just thought that was an interesting one to show you because to see it defined like that, I think is useful. In other news, the ceasefire is off in Gaza. That's what it currently looks like. Israel are back in with a vengeance. So good luck with what's happening on over there at the moment. It's quite frightening. There has been some very interesting intel drops recently about Nikola Tesla and his death. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, Tesla was working on some of his new inventions, the main one being pulling power from thin air, and he was going to give free power to everyone in Connecticut from the hotel that he was staying at when he died. Now, you'll see stories that say, well, in fact, let's play a story. Nikola Tesla had a thing called an oscillator. You may or may not be aware of it.
In 1897, Nikola Tesla invented a steam-powered electric generator, or oscillator, and in 1898 he managed to oscillate his laboratory at 48 East Houston Street in New York. The building oscillated so much that his neighbors called the police because they thought an earthquake was happening. In an article in the World Today magazine about Tesla in 1912, it said that he took this oscillator that fit inside his coat pocket, went down to a steel-framed building in the Wall Street district, and set the oscillator on one of the steel beams. After some fine-tuning, the structure began to creak and weave, and the steel workers came down to the ground panicked, believing the structure was about to fall. Tesla said given 10 more minutes the building could have completely fallen, and with that same oscillator in less than an hour, he said that he could bring down the Brooklyn Bridge. Tesla even said if matched with Earth's frequency, that it could cause earthquakes. When Nikola Tesla died on January 7, 1943, government agencies went into his properties and stole his documents and writings and never released it to the public, even to this very day. It makes one wonder when we see these earthquakes go on all around the world, are these all due to natural causes, or are some of them caused by technology such as Nikola Tesla's steam-powered oscillator?
So that story says that the government went in, took all his papers and all his research. That isn't the case. The hotel that he was staying at was being owned, I think, and run by Donald Trump's uncle. Now, it is said that Trump's uncle, who had access to the hotel safe, obviously, and was a friend of Tesla's, went and took all of Tesla's papers out of the safe and hid them so that the government didn't get a hold of, particularly his most important research. Obviously, if you're going to do that kind of thing, you've got to leave them something, because clearly, if they're going in to kill him while he's working on his gear, you'd think there'd be a bit of research around him. But the papers, his research notes, all that sort of stuff, he used to keep very separate, and a lot of it was kept in the hotel safe. And it is believed that Donald Trump's uncle took those. Now, I don't know why, but I had a picture of Donald Trump's uncle, and it's disappeared off my computer. And I only got it yesterday. It is gone off my computer. However, go and do a bit of research. When you bring that picture up, it's a black and white photo, easily attainable. Go and bring it up, and then have a bit of a think about who you think that might look like. Because I think if you were to compare let's not say it like that. If you were to compare the image of Donald Trump's uncle and an image of Julian Assange, you might be very surprised at just how much alike they are. I mean, like, really surprised. And right now, there is a lot more talk about Donald Trump's uncle and Tesla, and particularly some of the inventions that Tesla was working on at the time. So I don't know. Like I say, the tempo of intel has raised, but the quality of it, use your own discernment, folks, as they say. Here's something you don't need to use too much discernment about. The U.S. Navy, one of their head doctors, and when I say one of the U.S. Navy head doctors, I'm talking about a guy who oversees the entire fleet, right? He has just released some very interesting medical details. I want to look at this.
So in July, Undersecretary Cisneros acknowledged the DMET data, the database working properly, and also acknowledged things such as myocarditis rising 151%. So what I did, I went in today, I'm doing the same thing, 5-year average. However, I'm comparing it to 2022, and I only am using fixed wing pilots and helicopter pilots, active duty. So we get hypertensive disease, 36%, ischemic heart disease, 69%, pulmonary heart disease, 62%, heart failure, 973%, other forms of heart disease, 63%, cardiomyopathy, 152%.
Do you think the Australian Defence Forces are any less? Well, they probably might be, because we're a bit smaller than the American. But it is very clear that the fighting force of America, bearing in mind he's only talking about fixed wing and rotary wing pilots, not anybody else in the Navy, just them. So clearly their ability to maintain active flight status, air crews, all that kind of thing is being diminished because so many of them aren't fit to fly anymore. Something we're not being told by the airlines. And in fact, when I inquired about this recently, I was shut down very quickly. The airlines aren't discussing their problems with piloting. The good thing is I've got a few mates who are pilots and they're talking about it. They don't, well, one of them in particular doesn't like talking about it because it sort of brings home to the fact of what's going on to him. And he was very much a non-believer, well, right up until I think now. So he feels quite embarrassed when discussing these things. But now it's becoming a flight safety issue. Admittedly, there seems to be, from colloquial evidence at least, there seems to be less trauma in the air with pilots and air crew. However, it is still happening. There are issues with crew not waking up in the morning in the hotel. I'm led to believe that that's happened a couple of times in Brisbane so far. I can't speak for other cities, but it's happened in Brisbane a couple of times. So, young ladies in this case have flown in on the last flight in or whatever they are, or flown in the afternoon. They go into their hotel, they spend the night, they get on, usually they're out on the first flight the next day, and they're not there to be picked up. When they go to the room to find out what's going on, they find them dead. So nobody's talking about the hosties or the other air crew, or much less the baggage handlers and the other people who work for these airlines. And they do not want to be questioned about it. I still know people who refuse to fly, and it's probably quite wise, people who refuse to fly until we figured out what's going on with the pilots. But I can't blame them. I can't blame them at all. So, like I say, there seems to be a lot of intel going around at the moment. Whether or not much of it is worth anything, I guess we will find out in the days and weeks ahead. I'm not sure. I don't claim to have infallible sources, but at the moment, I would say I'm more confident than not that something's happening fairly large. And if you look at the markets at the moment, particularly look at the price of silver. I think only last week we were talking about silver at around $1,200 and something odd dollars a kilo. It's now, I think, $1,320 a kilo. So it's gone up over $100 in a week. Okay, silver does fluctuate, does go up, does go down. But that's not a bad little earn in a week. And if you look at the overall scheme of things about how silver goes up, goes down, goes up, the general trend is up. The general trend is way up. I watched a very interesting video 2 nights ago, and I have spent portions of yesterday and today going through it, trying to understand it again, because it's very financial, lots of numbers. It is 2 gentlemen discussing the silver market, the COMEX market. And there are some extremely interesting figures that have been released, as they are every year, by an agency, I think, that is tasked with counting the amount of ounces that are brought out of the ground, the amount of ounces that are bought, well, the amount of ounces that are traded, where they're traded, who they're traded with, who they're traded to. Now, in this report, it shows every ounce of silver, not individually, they talk in hundreds of millions of ounces at a time, but they talk about how much comes out of the mines, how much is processed for industrial use, how much is processed for jewelry, how much is put into the currency or the coins and all that sort of stuff that we see. And then the market predicts use of silver and where the price of silver will go in the following 12 months, or how much they expect things to go up, and yada, yada, yada. Now, in this year's report, I beg your pardon, in last year's report, they predicted that this year silver would increase by 15%. The use of silver, the demand for silver, would increase by 15%. Therefore, the market can sort of adjust itself and say, right, oh, well, there's going to be an increase. The silver will go up 15%. So, we're working toward that, or we're, taking that into account. And the market says, for all intents and purposes, yes, we were right. It was 15%. But if you look at the real figures and the uptake and use of silver in the last 12 months is 58%. That's globally. 58%. Now, they predicted 15, but it's 58. Why? Because China are making solar panels like there is no tomorrow. And they are covering their mountains, their fields, anywhere they can with them. Now, solar panels, every solar panel requires silver. The bigger the solar panel, the more silver that's required. Even your basic one has, 4 or 5 grams of silver in it. And the bigger ones can have up to an ounce. Do you want to know what really has a lot of silver in it? A Tomahawk cruise missile. A Tomahawk cruise missile has 500 ounces of silver in it. Now, we're not talking coins or bars. We are talking circuitry. But 500 ounces. Why do they need silver? They need silver because of the demands on current and power that they have for their high-tech weaponry. So if they need 500 ounces of silver for one Tomahawk cruise missile, how many Tomahawk cruise missiles do they have? And what other things do they need silver for? I can tell you, they need them for anything electronic. And because electronics is going through the roof, right, their powers, their abilities are going through the roof with their electronics, they need more silver. More silver. Now, let's go back to that report. The report that says how much silver has been dragged out of the earth, where it's been bought and sold, and who's traded it, does not include anything for the industrial military complex. That is hidden. They do not quote it at all. How can that be? If the military industrial complex demands huge amounts of silver so that they can make these weapons and make them work, they won't work without it. How is that not reflected in the price of silver? It's because it's being hidden. The price of silver is being compressed, oppressed, manipulated. And the largest manipulation, I think, so far discovered is the military industrial complex. That's all going to come down real soon. Real soon. The markets, nobody can understand why the market is still standing, right? It's propping itself up. The Wall Street must be feeding off itself at the moment. I believe the crash is coming sooner rather than later. If you haven't got silver yet, get it, for God's sake. Just get a coin. You never know what this price could go to. Right? I really do believe it's going to go up. Do I believe it's going to go to $40,000 or $50,000 an ounce? No, I don't. It might peak and fall back. Are you and I going to get that price for it? No, we're not. But we will get a fair price for it. And if you pay $40 or $45 maybe, or $43 for a coin today, I don't know, a 1 ounce coin, then that could be worth $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. It might be worth 40. Who knows where the price will actually settle when we really know what they've been doing with it. And the demand for it stops being manipulated so they can suppress the price. I think you'll find silver will go to gold parity. or very close to it. It may even shoot over gold for a period because there is a higher demand for silver than there is gold in the manufacturing process. So, like I say, I'm no economist. I am no numbers guy. I'm no nothing. But this makes sense to me. That's all. Just makes sense. So if you can, get yourself a coin. If you can afford more than a coin, get yourself a few coins. If you can afford a bar, get a bar. And hang on to it. All right? Just hang on to it. Because I really do believe that this is going to happen soon. There is too much weird shit going on for it not to happen soon, I think. And there are a lot of market indicators that are contradicting themselves. So that's usually a bit of an indication that something not so flashy is going to come our way in the not too distant future. So that would be my tip. And of course, if you are going to go and buy anything, my suggestion would be always go and see the team at Ainsley. Ainsley Bullion, Brisbane and in Melbourne, but you can shop them online at ainsley.bullion.com.au. They will ship your order to you securely for the cheapest price in Australia, and you can take control of your own wealth. They're great guys. I'd go in and see them if I were you. If you have the opportunity to go into Creek Street in Brisbane or into Collins Street in Melbourne, go in and say hi. The process of actually going in to buy silver or gold is pretty cool. You can... if you've never done it before, it's a really cool experience. And the people at Ainsley, they don't care whether you're there for 1 coin or 1 ton. It doesn't matter. They treat you exactly the same. They treat you like family. And particularly if you tell them you're part of the Voice of Freedom family, they will certainly look after you. So go in and say hi, Paul and the crew in Brisbane, Michael and the team in Melbourne, and pass along my best because they're a great bunch of folks. All right, let me get into the chat here and see who's saying what. And Martin. Yeah, I'll get around to it, Martin. Absolutely. The thing about, okay, if you're going to send me things, and I'm not talking to you, Martin, I'm just saying in general, if you're going to send me things about people, yes, I will look at them. But do not expect me to immediately jump to and put them on a show because I do my own research, okay? And these are great leads, great things to start off with, but yeah, it takes time. So there is another fellow who I'm not sure is in the chat tonight who has recently been speaking to me about Ben Roberts-Smith. Now, there's a hell of a story there, folks, a hell of a story, and it's one you're not going to like. Particularly if you like fairness, if you like truth, and you expect honor out of those that lead our military personnel. And I mean above the rank of corporal. So there is a lot more to that story, regardless of what the defamation trial and associated other dramatic bullshit surrounding that is. And this guy is very well placed to know what happened. Exactly what happened. So did I go out immediately and tell his story the moment he told me? No, I won't. Because it's one person's word and I need to independently verify. I need to talk to people like Ben Roberts-Smith. Because I'm very happy to help him. I'm a Ben Roberts-Smith supporter. I don't believe for one moment he did anything unlawful. I believe he operated under orders at all times. Now, Ben might have done a few other things that pissed off the people around him. But I can tell you, if you win the VC, there is a lot of jealousy from other members of the unit, other members of the military. You see, if you're a private, or in Ben's case, a corporal, and you get the VC, then for the rest of your life, every room you walk into with military personnel in it, regardless of rank, have to salute you. So a general salutes a corporal. A major salutes a corporal. A captain salutes a corporal. A private salutes a corporal. There is jealousy because, not without some reason, other members of the unit may have done equally as brave things and just not been written up for them. Or they may perceive that they have done equally as brave things, or that they are just as brave as the person who was given the VC. And there is jealousy. Now, I've known that that was the case surrounding Ben Roberts-Smith pretty much from the start of this bullshit. And I know that because I have people who sort of around him and sort of around that situation. And it was interesting to hear how they spoke about it. It is jealousy. Misguided or not, it's jealousy. Now, sure, there are plenty of VC winners who are not being treated this way, particularly from Afghanistan and Iraq. I think Ted Kenner, our VC winner from Vietnam, I think still lives on the Sunshine Coast. Ted was always treated very well, but I know a lot of senior military people hated him coming to events because they have to salute. They have to show deference to him. And because he has a VC and they have a chest full of ribbons that say they are, really good administrators, they're embarrassed. They bloody well should be. Gutless pricks, for the most part. Not all, but for the most part. So yes, there is that Ben Roberts-Smith story is not done yet, folks. But and to the guy who wants me to talk about it, yep, happy to do that at some stage. But I can't let you come on here and say things that you can't back up, because that'll get you in trouble and that'll get me in trouble. I need to be able to independently, or at least corroborate what it is that's being said and form a plan as to how to bring that to you without getting them or me arrested. Because they won't fuck around with things like this, That's why I'm very careful in telling you or talking about what we can do about this government. Because in this format, me telling you something could be construed in a way that the government is able to come at me. So words are very important. So that's why I don't immediately bring your stories to life the second you email them to me, folks. I do look at them, and I've got a book of them. Here. So don't think they don't go anywhere, but I've only got so much time in the day, and for the last 2 days I've been answering emails about X39 patches. So that's sort of how that's working. Let me have a bit of a glance, see what else is down here. What now? You want to know if I'm going to be speaking about Bosie or just your email? No. I've got nothing to say about Bosie. Other than I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed. I watched his interview with Charlie Ward. In fact, I was talking to Charlie Ward a couple of hours before Ricardo did that interview with him. And I pretty much told Charlie what Ricardo might say. And yip ya. There it was. So I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that he seems to be assuming ownership of things he has no right to assume ownership of, claiming all sorts of interesting things. I'm disappointed that he attacks the freedom movement without bringing anything new. I'm waiting for him to tell us we're going to have 10 days of darkness this Christmas, because that's what he's told us for the last 2 Christmases. I'm waiting for the big green room show that tells us we're going to get 8-hour movies back to back explaining all this, because that's what we've got for the last 2 years. And if I'm honest, pretty much everything he says today he's been saying for 2 years. He gets the same intel pretty much that I do. He says he gets it. No, well, he doesn't say he gets it from anywhere else, but he has his own intel sources. However, he does give dates. He has been saying things like 10 Days of Darkness, 8-hour movies for Christmas for the last 2 years, and many other things. At what point do you start questioning your source? Have any of us been right with dates? I'm not just picking on him. Have any of us been right with dates? No. That's why I stopped giving them. There's no point. Okay, we can hope and prepare. Not hope, we can prepare for what I believe will come. But when it comes, I don't know. It's going to all be figuring around a crash. What will make that crash? Well, I think oil will make that crash. The UAE have now stopped taking payment for oil with US dollars. They will only take payment for oil with gold or precious metals, particularly gold. That's it for the US dollar in the UAE. There is only one other group that can try and prop this up, and that would be OPEC. Now, OPEC, we would need to, I think, probably assume is a cabal organization. So OPEC will either disappear because they'll have no money and nobody will accept anything they're trading in, or they will have to somehow come and join that gold standard. And I don't know that that's going to work. I think we might see OPEC disappear, collapse. And if OPEC collapses, well, I think that's going to put a pretty big pressure on the global economy. That could be the first trigger. I think there will be other triggers, but I think that could be the first. The market is another trigger, the price of silver. And eventually somebody's going to be asked to pay for all that silver they say they have, and they don't have it. Okay, they say they've got all this money and silver to back it all up. Well, they're going to go broke in a hurry. So that'll be another trigger. I think there will be multiple triggers in multiple countries because the farce, the horror that's been pulled over us for so many years is so multi-layered, so multi-leveled, and so entwined with practically every part of our life that to undo it is a very, very, very big job. And they can only move so fast. So fingers crossed, we're nearer the end than we are the beginning. I'm very confident that that is the case. I think that the freedom movement needs to band together, but we need to maybe be less focused on ourselves and more focused on the people and bringing a plan to the people. I think the people felt Ricardo was the person for that plan, but the plan doesn't seem to have materialized. The plan, if it was a plan, doesn't seem to have been successful to this point. There have been a few different plans. I'm just disappointed that he chooses to attack others fighting the same side of this war that he is, or at least we assume we're on the same side. Shriner Masons. Go and do some research on Shriner Masons. Find out what they like doing. Sorry, that just came out of nowhere. Beg your pardon. What else? I haven't seen too much about Ricardo going anywhere, being seen anywhere, or being out talking to the people. So I think he's happy in his green room for as long as it lasts, and that'll be how it is. All right, just scanning down the. Geez, Martin, you're really keen, aren't you? How many times do you want to post your question up? Bosie said my place is infected with Freemasons. Yeah, God. What if I told you that A1 is infected with Freemasons? What if I told you there's plenty of them in there? What if I told you that A1 was infiltrated, full stop? That I know that because I know what they're doing. How would I know what they're doing if they weren't infiltrated? I find it hard for him to, I don't know, I just find it disappointing. Disappointing. He likes to use a broad brush. He smears, okay? I'm going to tell you something now. I wasn't going to talk about this, and Darren Bergwerf would probably fucking hate me for it. But it irks me. Ricardo Bosie recently got up in one of his green rooms and stated that Darren Bergwerf took our $11,000 happily enough and then told us he wasn't really putting his heart into it. Well, I'll tell you the actual timeline, all right? Because you weren't being told the truth. Darren had already spent $11,000 on promoting himself as an A1 candidate in the Victorian or the federal election. He'd already spent it. I can tell you, because A1 wanted me to be a candidate on the Sunshine Coast, I can tell you they offered me $10,000 to cover those flyer costs and all that sort of stuff, should I get my nominations in time. That was the deal, okay? Because they knew I didn't have any money to do it. And they knew Darren didn't have any money to do it either, but he did. But the offer was there. Darren never took up their offer. He paid for what he wanted out of his own money. Out of his own money. After the election, some long time after the election, A1 started sending him requests to send us an invoice, please. Darren ignored those requests. He had no intention of sending them an invoice. 4 times he was sent a request from A1 to send us an invoice so we can pay you. Eventually, he said, oh, well, all right, here's an invoice. And they paid him his $11,000 that he had already paid out to promote A1 and he himself as the representative for them. That is the truth of the $11,000 that Darren Bergwerf took from A1. And that is the timeline that it happened in. If you feel that Ricardo has told you that timeline, honestly, then great. I feel he's shaped it somewhat. And that disappoints me. Because I thought more of him. A lot more of him. I still do. It's not that I don't like the guy. All right? Like many of you, I want him to be what he says. But I watch actions. Actions speak louder than words. I would commend you try doing the same. Watch actions, not words. There's a lot more behind all of that. All right? I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to start a war. There is no point. I don't want that. I want unity, which unfortunately it doesn't seem to be what he wants. Once again, I ask why? Because at the start of all of this, that's what he wanted. Unity. But now it seems it's only unity if you fall in line behind him. Anybody else? All infiltrated. Broad brush. Oh, Freemasons the lot. Really. Shriner Masons. Look up Shriner Masons. Find out what they're into. And do some research. I'm just very disappointed. I don't understand why he attacks my place. I don't know how he thinks A1 isn't infiltrated. But you can go off and have your own little fantasies, I suppose. I can tell you that I'm not infiltrated because there's only me. Pretty easy not to be infiltrated. I let people in, I let people close, but only to a point. Because like you, I use discernment. I like to check up and do backgrounding, find out who it is I'm really dealing with. So I would ask that we all lift our game in that regard. And if you are in a my place and you are feeling like it's infiltrated, stop getting fucking infiltrators in like that Monica, who I believe tonight is in Pimpamar with book sales on her mind. So stop giving platforms to people that aren't there for you. Okay? And for that matter, stop giving it to me. I won't come into them. If that's what it needs to be, I won't come in and do shows from my places. Because I've started this and everybody seems to follow. You know, I don't mean I've started my place, but I've started this idea of rolling around the country doing shows in different places. So Monica at the moment seems to be following that and using my place as a springboard for it. Well, I don't think that's going to happen much longer. So don't spend time getting rid of these people to give them a bloody platform again, especially the ones that try and tell us the French were working with the Nazis in World War II. God help us. All I can say is that basically proves that not all the dickheads are on the roads, hey, folks?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!